Hello and welcome to the Inner Gamer On. My name is Brett Yanofsky.
I'm Austin Morales.
I'm Devin Duree.
I'm Charlie Smith.
That gets me every time.
I know. Our discussion this week is going to be on the state of the single player experience and what is happening to it, because we're seeing this crazy shift right now in video games. And this idea came from last week's news article where Electronic Arts came out and announced that they are shutting down Visceral Studios. Now, Visceral Studios is most known for Dead Space. They made the Dead Space game, but they are now a studio that is focused on working on a Star Wars game. It was going to be a single-player linear action-adventure game, story-based.
Everything about what you just said just has me jazzed.
Everything that...
Jazzed right up.
Hard
And
up.
Amy Hennig, I believe is her name, is the one that was directing this game, and she got picked up to work on this project. She is the director. She was the director of Uncharted 2, and she was running this. So if you guys remember Uncharted 2, it was like awesome,
it's
cinematic,
great.
amazing.
It was
Now
a
she's
Uncharted
doing a
game.
Star Wars
another
title.
great Uncharted
Picking
game.
out
Yeah.
some-
Yeah.
So it was like everything you possibly want. Well, EA was like,
Stab it in the
it's
face.
going away. So I want
You
to
know
read
all
a
those
quote.
successful games we're making?
Right.
Let's stop that.
Basically.
Yeah. Condolences to those that got laid off. It
Yeah, to
sucks.
those who got the can, that fucking sucks. I hope you go make an indie company that makes billions. Do
Well, they
something.
haven't announced yet. They haven't said like specifically what they're doing with the studio, which is good. I mean, well, hopefully good. You know, hopefully they're doing
hopefully
something
it
with
ends up
it.
good.
But what they've done is they've moved the production of the Star Wars game to their EA Vancouver studio, and they came out with a quote. Let me pull up the quote real quick to say why they shifted it. And it's interesting because there's a few key points in here that you want to like pay attention to. But Patrick Sutherland is the vice president of EA, and he said, quote, "In its current form, it was shaping up to be a story-based linear adventure game. Throughout the development process, we have been testing the game concept with players, listening to the feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design." Fundamental shifts in the marketplace. So for me, it's like that just means everybody's making money with microtransactions.
Yeah.
This game has no microtransactions. It doesn't have a long-term game like money-making system. This is a $60 title that'll be $60 when you buy it. They may have had some season passes potentially, but
Right.
I mean, you know, as a single-player game, like how many are you going to purchase? So they're shifting away from that to make another Star Wars thing. And the weird other thing about this too is EA has exclusive license to make Star Wars games on console. Only they can make Star Wars games on console systems. So we're stuck with them.
Great.
Awesome.
Discuss.
Superb.
Discuss. Gee, let me think. I think my first comment would be me projectile vomiting into the microphone. But since these are expensive, I won't do that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
A nice guy. This isn't a Gallagher show, so yeah.
Yeah.
So can we now all agree that it's all about the money at this point?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Seller's market.
On one hand,
You're
this is
milking
obviously
something,
very...
right?
I'm milking.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was afraid it was something else.
What just happened?
Anyways.
So on one hand, obviously this is very upsetting from the standpoint that we don't want to see EA just do what EA is great at and just destroy something that we hold dear and enjoy.
Yeah.
Part of me is also curious what Disney has to say about this, because Disney being in charge of Star Wars now, I would be surprised if this was something that they would let slip through their fingers in the regards of, you're putting out a shit product of the Star Wars universe and we can't allow that.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
How do you relate that to Battlefront 2 then? Given with all the microtransactions in it.
I mean, it's got microtransactions,
Yeah.
but that is also a game that lends itself to facilitate microtransactions.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a multiplayer game. There's lots of different types of ways for you to incorporate microtransactions, whether it be abilities, weapons, gear, skins, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Battlefront's gonna have all that.
All of it.
All of it.
So
And
Everywhere.
everywhere. But
Only
at the same-
$4.99.
Win the game for $10.
Yeah.
But I mean, this whole thing with the single player experience, like this is very upsetting. Like EA, whatever their goal is or their mission is for the now single player experience for Star Wars, I'm deeply worried. I'm deeply troubled by this.
And will it still be single player? That's the other thing, though, is the unknown right now because, obviously we have Battlefront, but
It better be.
there's rumors out there. This is obviously rumors. This isn't like proven stuff or anything, but there's people that are talking about, well, maybe they're trying to make a Destiny equivalent in the
Yeah,
Star
that's what
Wars
I've heard.
universe. So
I've also
the words
heard,
used, it's very like similar. Well, for at least me and other people, like it strikes Destiny. And that's what kind of scares me.
The one that I heard, I
Right.
was reading this on Reddit a couple days ago, was that there were people who were saying that they would maybe try to clone Borderlands formula
okay.
and do it would still be a linear story, or at least a one-track story in a way, but doing it in the Borderlands style where there was like maybe not single player, but the cooperative play.
I'm always for cooperative play.
Exactly.
Games that also allow you to play single player if you want.
Yeah.
Because no one doesn't like playing with their buddies, but every now and then it's nice to just
Yeah.
fuck off and do your
Chill
own
back.
thing,
Chill back and hang.
Yeah.
It still scares me because they mentioned specifically that it's they focus in on the state of the marketplace.
Yeah.
And the marketplace
trends.
right now is literally
You can make more
games
money
as a service
Yeah,
is where
you can
we're
make
going.
more money
Right.
by nickel
Yeah.
and diming every last little thing in the game with the game, or rather than releasing a $60 one-time purchase and calling it done.
Right.
Or
So-
spending more manpower to release that $60 game and then spending even more manpower to do a DLC that
Yeah. Yeah. So it's weird because we have all these. We just had Square Enix come out and say that they're starting to jump into the games as a service model, and we have EA that's doing a lot of that. I mean, Battlefield 1 is largely centered around multiplayer and
yeah.
continually, you buy the season pass stuff, and then Overwatch has that. Call of Duty is probably going to have something along those lines, but the idea of like single player, like standalone single player games, like we have, like let's look in the last year or two or whatever. We had Horizon Zero Dawn was a single player open world game, but in terms even more specifically, linear story games, Uncharted.
I was gonna say Uncharted, Horizon Zero
Wolfenstein
Dawn
will be.
Wolfenstein will be. Dark Souls has always been a little bit linear. There's the I'm blanking on it now, but I mean, point being, there is there have been a series of titles out there that had linear stories or single player experiences, I guess we could really call them, and even in from them that had DLC, they were still very much focused on that single player experience. And why does this whole change in the market trends have to affect that? That's beyond frustrating.
Well, maybe they saw, like Middle Earth Shadow of War, and they said, these guys are doing a single player thing, and they have microtransactions. Maybe we should do that too.
And that I can actually get behind. If it's going to be the caliber of Shadow of War with the unobtrusive microtransactions, I think they did. I think they found a balance between the gameplay and that.
Yeah, Shadow of War definitely works. Like, I don't feel like I have to spend money
Right.
at all.
Right.
So the struggle with that is,
I can't.
for me, is that you open up to that, you're okay with that. Your baseline of what you're okay with has now gone up.
You've compromised.
yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
compromise. So then whenever they do a little bit more, you're like, well, I'm okay with this. Maybe that's okay.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you are now stuck in a microtransaction of your mind
It's
where they're like just pushing you up a little bit higher.
You went a
pay
lot
little
further
bit more.
than I anticipated. Like, you
got dark.
you
Now you're
skipped a couple of steps
your
there,
mind.
buddy.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
we're
just
already
went into a dystopian world.
Yeah,
like,
it went real.
like that.
You went to
Yeah.
Animal Farm real quick.
so with it was EA, right? EA's little patent thing.
No, Activision.
Activision, sorry.
Activision.
So with that, like already, like we've already skipped some steps. Like we went from like, hey, here's a little bit more, but now it's like, here's what we want to get to. So like we know where we're headed, we know the possibilities, and here we are. We're stuck in this. Like, how do we get out? I don't think we can get out. I think this is where we're headed, and this is what we have to kind of accept in a way. As much as I don't want to.
Don't accept it. Don't do it.
I will say that there is something that can fix
Fight
it.
the power.
I will say that the success of the indie market is something that can save it.
Right.
Yeah. Until the indie market has microtransactions.
No,
Which I don't think that's ever going to happen.
But it could.
it's possible.
I mean,
It would be rare, though.
It would be.
But microtransactions are like a cancer. I mean, EA.
I mean, we're talking about
Don't take this from
DLC.
me. Don't
EA,
take this from me.
EA saw that microtransactions were working for other people, so they were like, we should do it too. You know what? Just scrap this entire, just take Visceral and throw it into the trash can, because microtransactions are more
You're
important.
from the old days. This is the new era.
Yeah. This is the new stuff, kid.
But see, my point with that being, though, is like I could see the indie market saving this from a standpoint of like, look at all of the success that some of these indie games have had
Right.
that have made a lot of money.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
All of which were single player games. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Gone Home, Inside, Limbo,
Bastion.
What remains of Edith
Bastion.
Finch?
What Remains of Edith Finch. Like, these are games that have won awards. They've made a shitload of money, and it's because of indie developers wanted to put out an experience that meant something to them and meant something to the community.
Right.
It is probably going to have to get a lot worse before it can get better.
Right.
I hate to
with
say
that.
it,
Yeah.
but we're probably going to have to get to a point where we see us as gamers and the industry together hit rock bottom, and we're probably going to have to hit rock bottom together, where we're just seeing like just maybe one company in its entirety collapse, going, well, we ended up shooting ourselves in the foot,
Right.
both feet.
Yar.
we
so
can't buy this anymore. This
As
is
Luis said,
done.
that games have actually gotten cheaper since we've progressed in time.
Yeah.
Would y'all want to do the trade-off for more expensive games opposed to all these microtransactions? Which in the end, microtransactions, you could spend more than if they charge 70, 80 bucks.
See, that's a
you
moot
know?
point to me.
Okay.
It's a very moot point to me. If I'm spending $30 on a title, on a game, and I've gotten the foundation, but then within the first 20 minutes, if I'm spending another $30 on stuff to make the game playable or fun, fuck you. I'm just going to spend the $60 on
Right.
the game I should be getting
Right.
from the get-go.
Right.
Yeah, that's like the GameStop advertisement that they had that was
Yeah.
like, yeah, check out this Assassin's Creed game, and then like, oh, here's a silly camel, and then you're gonna have to pre-order the game if you want to play more of the game.
I don't give a shit about that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, that camel can suck a camel dong, man.
No, but would you be, instead of the $60 price point, would you be willing to pay $80 up front and be good to go?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If it
right.
had
I
everything,
do that often. I do that very often. I did it with Destiny. I've done it with Dark Souls. I've done it with The Order 1886.
Hundred.
Hate to see that one
happen, Bob. Hate to see that one happen.
But I've done that with a large number of titles. Another great example of this from the indie market even was Little Nightmares.
Yes.
I could pay
Yes.
the extra because I knew that I was going to get the 2 extra DLCs that are going to come out. And
And you know, for me, like, think about like the games you mentioned earlier, like Limbo and Inside and
Yeah.
What Remains of Edith Finch and all those games.
Yeah.
Those games were made by 5 to 10 people.
Correct.
Right?
correct.
EA, for example, has multiple studios sprung like all over the world.
Hundreds, probably
that
thousands
are
of
hundreds of
employees.
thousands of people. Think of how many of those successes that they could make. You know, they're trying it with A Way Out. You know, they're taking on that project.
Absolutely.
How many of those that they could actually produce with those studios? I mean, in one of those studios, they could probably be working on 10 of these right now,
And it's
people would respect them a lot more.
Oh,
I
they would
think.
respect the hell out of that.
Yeah.
How many times, how many cons have we been to where we've gone and we've actually talked to these indie developers and they were like, this has been a passion project of mine
Yeah.
for years. For years. I've been
Yeah.
wanting to make this game since I started making video games.
Right. Yeah. And you can still do these other things like
Yeah.
the games as a service thing and still make those happen. but then develop these other side projects and stuff like that. Like the thing I feel like we've ran into is that there's this expectation from like the executives that we need to produce a AAA title, single player experience that's a $60 game that's got so much stuff in it that you spend hundreds and hundreds of hours playing said game. But I don't know why for a single player game. Like I want a story, like if I'm playing single player, I want a good story, I want a good experience, and that's what I want. I don't want to I don't care if it's 100 hours. I just want to enjoy myself.
Yeah,
What Remains of Edith Finch was a 2-hour experience, and I loved it.
Little Nightmares
I
is
haven't
less than an hour.
finished Horizon Zero Dawn because there's so much in there.
But that goes to, now you're starting to argue about the quality of the content that's being put out, not necessarily the quantity of the content that's being put out.
Yeah.
And to that, I would say, and not necessarily a counterpoint, but just an interesting anecdote on it, is someone like a company like CD Projekt Red,
Right.
Who, I mean, we're looking at Witcher 3, where how many hundreds of hours can you
Right.
put into a game like Witcher 3?
So
Main
much
story
to do.
alone was like 48 hours.
Sometimes I'll just look at the map and just be like,
I don't know where to start.
And
I'm gonna
think
go
of
make a
how much
sandwich.
money
To the camera.
Think of how much money that game made too.
Oh,
I mean, The
so
Witcher
much
3
money.
got awards, like
Incredible awards.
crazy amount of
Incredible
awards,
amount of
lots of
awards.
money.
such a good.
They're taking so much, so much
So
time.
threw you off?
And-
I'm just
Okay, good.
very excited about The Witcher 3.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, like with EA, so the thing with EA is they're a publicly traded company, so that sucks because they aren't as much making money for Witcher 3. Total revenue is $250 million. It's not as much as I thought it would be, actually.
That was of March of this year. The trilogy,
Oh,
yeah,
As of March.
as of March of
As
this
of March,
year.
yeah.
And it just went on
March.
sale again, I believe, on Steam or on GOG.
And when I was going to say, when we get to a Steam winter sale, I'm sure that we're going to see another just influx.
I mean, this could
of
be the
this
new Skyrim.
But
basically.
see, and that's my point.
Yeah.
Is this game? It was a game of not necessarily quantity, but quality.
yeah.
It had a lot to it. Yes, there was a ton of stuff in Witcher,
It's very complex.
but the company spent time and effort putting in the quality of the game that the players were engaging in. They got you the best of everything. Great voice actors,
Yep.
great music,
Yep.
great atmosphere, great story,
You betcha.
characters beyond counting that you got to engage with of all varieties of NPCs.
Yeah, it's literally just 100 tiny, really well-made things that, as a whole, create this huge machine of awesome.
Right.
You know,
And it's crazy to know that team was super small. Like you look at EA
Real
and
small.
Activision,
Yeah.
they have at least 250 people working on one game.
At the very
Something
least.
like that, right?
At the very least.
yeah. If there
And,
was Destiny 1 had 500 people working on it.
God dang.
So,
Dang.
and with that, bringing that back full circle to what we're talking about right now, EA is falling into this friggin' pitfall of wanting to put out a game that
They've gotten so big. That's all they care about. Or someone at the top, it's like they don't, there's that connection that we've seen before.
they're wanting quantity over the quality.
Right.
Is here's
Yeah.
all these half-made things, here's all these partially made levels or designs or characters or items or weapons or whatever, and we'll keep them aside. They're not exactly all 100% like really fleshed out, but people will buy them if they want them.
yeah.
Oh, cool. Here's another cool skin for your rifle. Here's another cool hat for your multiplayer character to run around in.
Imagine working for a company like that in which you come into work and you're like, all right, guys, this week we need to make 300 armor pieces.
I was just thinking that. How many people do you think are just droning away at their desks, sitting there going, I have to make 50 more ridiculous sunglasses for this one character.
And like in games like Destiny, you have like the progression is so quick now that you see and get rid of that thing so fast.
Right. Right.
And it's
Oh,
just
man.
gone.
Yeah.
How many times in Destiny have you like looked at something like, well, that's a shit shader?
Yeah.
Hold
Oh,
an
yeah.
X and
Hold
it's gone.
an X and it's gone.
Well, it's because that week they were like, we need 50 of these like in the next hour. So they're like,
Yeah.
okay, color drops. Let's just see what we can make happen here.
This
Throw it
works.
together. But I mean, with like The Witcher, for example, like if that game, obviously that's a fantastic game and everything like that. But that being a great example for companies like EA or whatever, they probably looking at that game and they're like, that's a lot of work. Well, let's throw in microtransactions to it so we can get more money and like keep it going for a longer period of time. But there was a lot of time involved in making that game. If it was cut in half to a 40 to 50 hour experience or whatever, same level of quality, I mean, it's still going to be a good game. You're still going to play it. But literally half of that time was probably spent on that game. They could do that.
I actually don't think it's a good example because I think The Witcher is actually coming from another source that's already been established, while Visceral and EA can make up whatever they want. So EA is probably like, this story doesn't work for the game plan we want to make more money, so we need to just scrap it.
It's a possibility.
Let's develop a new story that's actually going to fit what we want to do.
Right.
Is basically what is going to happen.
fair.
'Cause I don't see how you could actually translate games to service into The Witcher 3 because I just don't think it works that way with that game specifically.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm just saying in terms of like as a single player game,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
they could take like right now there's this idea, at least I see the mentality that a single player game has to keep people playing it for a very long period of time, hundreds of hours like that. I mean, how many games come out that are less than 10 hours? They're only indie games now. It's very uncommon that a game is less than a 10-hour experience, and 10 hours is for me a good amount of
good
time.
chunk.
Now a 10-hour experience is super short unless it's an indie game. So that is, I mean, if you're going from 10 to like 80 hours, that's 8 times the amount of content. I mean, obviously that's not exactly true, but that's way more content than the 10-hour experience.
Right.
But if you made 8 of those 10-hour experiences that were super like tight and concise and awesome and just well done, that's 8 games that are going to generate $250 million a piece. Could you make that same amount of money? I mean,
I
Possibly.
think you'd be hard pressed to do that.
Yeah.
I think you personally would be very hard pressed to do that.
yeah.
And I think that also comes with the idea of the integrity of the company that is putting out the game.
Yeah.
EA, we know that this would be a cash grab.
I guess it's just
someone like-
integrity there.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone like, let's look at Rockstar.
right.
That is an incredible integrity foundation for a company. They
GTA 5 Online is the outlier on that, though. They really want your money, man. They
Yeah.
really want your money.
That one
That's-
definitely does
GTA
that.
5 Online.
It's
Yeah.
the DLC they've been coming out with is just like
Yeah.
you need to spend millions of in-game dollars to begin playing the DLC.
Yeah.
And making $1 million could take a week if you just grind the shit out of it
Right.
the entire week. It's
Do they have microtransactions in that?
oh, you betcha.
Okay.
They're shark cards. You spend
Yeah.
like you
So I know they're making a boatload of cash off of that game. They're
Yeah.
doing really well with it.
yeah.
I'm now exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so bringing it all back to like just single player, like where do you guys see single player games going 5 years from now? Like, are they going to exist anymore as we saw them 5 years ago? Like,
Absolutely, but there's going
Yeah.
to be more games like Shadow of War where they're implementing the microtransactions. Some are going to be really bad with it, and some of
Right.
them are going to be like Shadow of War where it's evenly balanced, where you don't have to if you don't want to, and I won't. But you know, not everybody's going to do so well.
Right.
I agree with that 100%. I
Yeah.
think that we're going to see that. I also think that we would see certain companies that are known for doing single player experiences really dig in and probably try to capitalize on their single player experience fund, like
Right.
Bethesda will probably spend a lot of time trying to create some new IP of single player experiences, and then obviously capitalizing on their old ones of Fallout and Skyrim.
that's another one. I wish we had more time to talk about that because Bethesda is the only one that is not doing the games as a service. And they are doing all these really good.
Yeah, they're leaning
Fallout,
that way.
yeah, they are. Fallout 4 mods that used to be free. You have to
Well,
pay
yeah,
for now.
yeah. But I mean, overall, like, I mean, if you look at their whole lineup of stuff, like,
But that's also a mod and not necessarily a service.
yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
But they,
Yeah.
the developers of the mods get some.
from me, I feel like they're trying to cash grab on this stuff that people have already been doing. And now it's like, oh, you like it? Well, you know, I'm just giving
There are
you
people
some
like
of the
me.
money.
There are people like me who are too lazy to try to mod their own shit. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I
it's
can pay
fine.
somebody to do
Yeah,
it for me,
it's fine.
by all means.
I miss
Yeah.
cheat codes for sure.
I
So-
do miss cheat codes.
I mean, I agree. I think we're always going to have single player games from independent developers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And indie devs are definitely going to be the capital of like the
Multiplayer and
The
games
king.
as a service and stuff more than anything.
So here's a question: would we be okay with a Witcher quality game with microtransactions?
As long as it's not too in your face, sure. I mean, if it's
That's kind of vague. I don't know what kind of microtransactions I
yeah,
would
I
want
mean,
to see in there. But yeah, definitely Shadow Mordor would be nice.
Mhm.
Not in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see. Like I'm trying to think of what kind of transactions would be in a game like that. but-
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't want to have to buy Gwent cards.
Yeah.
You know, I earn my shit.
I don't ever.
I earned every single one
Yeah.
of you just flared me up just now. Like, oh man, I got so fired up. I earned those Gwent cards.
Gwent's the shit.
I don't ever buy microtransactions ever. Like I've never bought anything in Overwatch. I've never bought anything in Destiny. I've never bought anything in any of these games. So to me, there's no appeal to it.
Right.
And I don't know why people have an appeal to it.
It's easy to-
'Cause
it's easy-
But
Some
Once-
of them
once
like
you start, it's
Yeah.
easy to keep going.
well, and
Like,
Yeah.
I see some of them like as a novelty can be at least a little fun. Like if you spend like one time $3 to get some silver in Destiny, where you can buy a really funny emote.
I mean,
Yeah,
like if you had but like you get that because I was listening to somebody talking about Overwatch and stuff. Like once you get that skin that you want, what else do you
You're
need?
set.
You don't need anything else, you
Yeah.
know. And so like for like you were talking like the emote and stuff. You get that emote that you like, that's where you're satisfied. But anyway, bring it back to single player games. The point of this conversation that I was trying to get to is so many AAA titles and game makers as a AAA company are going away from single player games. They're becoming an afterthought. That's what I'm seeing. I mean, Shadow of War still
Yeah.
exists, Wolfenstein still exists, but that's some of the few games. And in the broader picture, I mean, EA, if you look at everything that they have, there isn't anything that's like single player focused.
Yeah.
Other than A Way Out.
But you also
that's
see
coming out.
certain companies that will never break from that mold, like Nintendo.
And they're the exception. And
Yeah.
that's something that
They're
why
true-
can't people be like
They're,
that?
they're true to
It's like,
form.
what
They're-
the heck?
I mean,
Yeah.
we've given them shit
Yeah.
plenty of times throughout the years. And I mean, the Wii U, for all of its
Yeah.
faults, we can now look at something like the Nintendo Switch and what it's bringing out to us and realize that you still can change and adapt in the industry, but you
Right.
don't have to
Compromise.
compromise your
Right.
your integrity.
You don't
But
have to
that's
like
the company
fall
you
into
are.
the changing of the marketplace.
Yep.
That's Nintendo. They've always just done their own thing.
Yeah.
And they kicked ass with it.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well, let's wrap this up.
Yep.
So
Sounds good.
that's I want to do a part 2 of this at some point in a couple of years because
All right, we'll
there's
call this
more-
part 1.
There's more. There's this like so much more.
Put a
that can be
big
said on
graphic
this.
at the bottom that says
I know,
part
right?
1.
Part 1, whatever.
Next
Part
Master
1
Chief
down
Chief
here.
Spider.
So that's going to conclude our discussion this week. If there's a topic that you want to hear us talk about, please let us know at hello@theinnergamer.net. Don't forget to check out our video of this segment every Thursday at youtube.com/innergamer when it works. This time it should work, so we should be all good on that.
Should see
That'll be
this.
awesome. If you guys are watching, don't forget to head over to theinnergamer.net to listen to the full podcast episode for our weekly game impressions and top headlines from the week. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.
Subscribe. We're
in
subscribed this time.
places.
Where are you going to put it this time?
Keep up with the
Put it on
latest
Charlie's
video
face.
game news and opinions you care about right here on The Inner Gamer.